Good morning, good morning. It is Tuesday, the 16th of July, 2024. I'm Graham Hughes. We're watching Morning Brew here on Politics Social. Phil can't be here this morning, so I'm filling in for Phil. Ha! See what I did there. Big shout out to Spankflaps and to Rufus and to James and to Plum Duff and Lisuin and Unquiet Badger, Rob Reed Jones, Moonfest Madness in the chat there. We've got Stephanie Wilson, Colin Baker, Rock Show, Jeff True, and Johnny Copperhead, amongst others. Hello, everyone. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Trump. Unfortunately, sorry, I hate his name, I hate his face, I hate everything about him. However, he does look like he's going to be the next president of the United States of America. So we need to talk about what we're going to do about it. But also, yeah, Phil's fine. He's just going in for some tests, I think. Wet and horrid here in Lincoln. It's not raining here in Durham at the moment, but apparently it will soon. And Rachel's saying, good morning from a very hot, good morning all from a very hot Puglia? Is that how it's pronounced? Puglia? I don't know. This is my Scouse accent coming out there. Pikachu says Trump's VP has an interesting views about the Labour Party. Said that the UK is now an Islamic country because Labour's in charge. Now, this was recently at the National Conservative Conference. Conservatism? Not NatC Conference. Yeah, so the guy's name is J.D. Vance. He is a working class billionaire, millionaire at least, but also he is a sugar baby of Peter Thiel. So now Peter Thiel, we need to talk, if we're going to talk about J.D. Vance, we need to talk about Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel's one of the founders of Facebook. He's worth about $7 or $8 billion, and he is evil. He is just about as evil as a tech genius, as they like to call themselves. It is possible to be. He's the founder of many companies named after various rings and seeing orbs and things like that from Lord of the Rings. And he is an absolute menace to democracy. He doesn't want democracy. He wants to just run America as a surveillance state with no oversight by the government whatsoever. He is a extreme libertarian, and he's not great. Although Vance did call for the removing of the Section 230 protections for the internet, which means that if someone puts something libelous on your site, if someone makes a video for YouTube, it says some terrible slanderous things, then the actual platform can't go to court because of it. There's a lot of Republicans who want to get rid of this or amend it, and J.D. Vance is one of them. However, he didn't want it for like the platform that he uses, which is Rumble. It should be all the others, but not that one. It was a bit okay, mate. And he's also said that the first Islamist country with nuclear weapons, maybe it's Pakistan. It might be Iran in a few years, maybe, but it's probably Britain now that Labour's in charge. So this guy is going to be our vice president, and essentially he has been bought. So we've got to bear in mind. He has been bought by Peter Thiel, like he is Peter Thiel's creation. After the Access Hollywood tape came out in the 2016 election under Trump, not under Trump, but like Trump's Access Hollywood tape, that everyone thought that would be the end of his campaign. I mean, God damn it, it should have been. But Peter Thiel donated £1.25 million to the Trump campaign just after that happened to try and rescue it, which it did. He won. He won, which is not so great, really, is it? That you've got a guy who is a Trump fan. He was frustrated with the first term of Trump because Trump wasn't particularly interested in tech, didn't really do much with it. Whereas he wanted to change things massively, scrap the Constitution. Yes, that's something that's on the agenda, by the way. Scrap the Constitution, the US Constitution, in favour of libertarian lunacy, which means that the world will be a playground for billionaires like Peter Thiel. And having found that just donating money towards the Trump cause wasn't going to really get him anywhere, he's decided in 2024 to literally have a candidate that is his for vice president. So J.D. Vance is very much Peter Thiel's boy. And you need to know that going into this election. Don't want to scare you and Julie, but yeah, it looks like it's gearing up to be a very, what was the quote? A good time for war profiteers in Silicon Valley. And if you are American and you have a social media presence, now might be a good time to invest in a VPN and pretend that you're in a different state than the state that you're actually in. Actually, Peter Thiel, for all of his bullshit that he comes out with about libertarianism and people being free to do whatever they want, he's quite keen on state surveillance of people writing things on the internet that he doesn't like. Paul Ewan, thank you very much for the £2 super chat, mate. That's very kind of you. First super chat of the morning. Ever noticed only rich people are libertarians? Yeah, I've noticed that. Because they can afford the healthcare. They can afford the private security. They can afford to send their kids to posh private schools. They can afford to still live and work anywhere in the EU if they're from the UK. You can't. I can't. The working classes can't. Nice. But yeah, libertarianism is a flawed ideology. It's basically anarchy for Nepo babies, for rich kids with too much money who go, oh, why do we even need the police? Why do we even need a healthcare system for people? Why do we need education for the proles? The fact that none of their tech would be being used if no one could read just seems to fly past them in the way that rich people, with this idea that they're self-made people, which is an expression that I absolutely effing hate, because 99 times out of 100, people who are millionaires, right? They were born rich. Their parents were wealthy. Nearly everyone in the world who is a billionaire right now was a millionaire at birth. That's the way it works. That's the way intergenerational wealth. It just trickles down to their children, pours down to their children, but not to the rest of us. Peter Pears was great in Blue Peter. Can we, says Plunduff, Anthony, can we not just send Sunak over as Trump's campaign manager? It would solve everything. Trump would be saying Sky TV and $2,000 taxes all the time. That's quite fun. Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much. I don't think I know any rich librarians, or am I missing something? Oh, wait. No, libertarians. Did I say librarians? Libertarians. But thank you very much for the super chat. So many of us eat pork, drink alcohol, wear shoes indoors, and allow women to go uncovered. How Islamic we are. Well, exactly. Well, it's like when people try and use the Bible as justification for homophobia or transphobia. And you're like, I'm pretty sure Jesus said nothing about trans people. He said nothing about being gay. He did say don't commit adultery on 3 separate occasions. Funny that. He's having more tests today. That's from Rufus. Oh, yeah, sorry, no Phil today. Sorry, he will return on Thursday. But you got me today, sorry. Alan says, worth 7 to 8 billion. Almost the same as me in my dreams. Oh, I got excited there, Alan. I thought a massive super chat was on its way. But are any of them poor? Well, no, I mean, this is the thing. Like, to be a libertarian and to be poor at the same time will require cognitive dissonance that is even beyond the gammoniness of Brexiteers, I think, working class Brexiteers anyway. But the fact that the working class get behind these posh Nepo babies like Trump, like Farage, like Johnson, is just, I don't know, it's just a bit grim. It's a bit grim, to say the least. What have we got here? A bit late this morning. Hope you're all well. That's from Victoria. Hello, Victoria. I hope you're all right. And Phil's having a tracking chip implanted. He doesn't need a tracking chip implanted. He's Phil. He doesn't like going anywhere. He's like, it's not like you're gonna have to find him where he is. He's probably just gonna be at home. I might come to Liverpool for the Labour Party conference. Anyway, moving on. We got Alan Walker saying you might recognise them from the more prevalent name anarchists. Yeah. Okay. So basically libertarianism is rich anarchy. It's rich people wanting their own fiefdoms, wanting their own militia to protect them. Now, if you want to see what full-on libertarianism looks like, go to Mogadishu, go to Somalia, have a look at what anarchy is really like. And it's the person with the biggest gun and the biggest gang of psychopaths is in charge. The warlord who is prepared to kill and rape and murder as many people as possible is in charge, and nobody else is, because that's the way it works. Complex, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. That's very kind of you. That was a nice week we had there where things looked like they were getting more sane. I wish we didn't live in interesting times. Complex, I feel exactly the same way. There's a couple of things that have happened in the last week or so, which are just really getting me down. Maggie Pie, 20 Swedish krona. Have you read the Project 2025 stuff? It's scary. Thank you very much for the super chat. Yes, I've not read all 922 pages of the PDF, but I think I've seen enough to know that things are not going to be much fun in America next year. If you are a woman, if you are gay, if you are a socialist, if you are a Democrat, if you are any ethnic minority, if you are a Native American, basically, if you're white and working class, things are going to be a bit crap as well. Because one thing I think a lot of people don't realize when they sort of they get all excited about the idea of having a civil war is supply lines. This is critical. Like, they don't really understand that just a few companies produce all of America's food. And if the supply lines to those companies is shut off, America starves very quickly. Very effing quickly. But yeah, it seems like a lot of people want that. Seems like a lot of people in America, they want to just, murder their neighbors brutally, because that's something that happens in civil war. And they're like, yeah, I'm here for that. Rosie 2911, thank you very much for the £5 super chat there. Hello, Graham. Hello, Rosie. How you doing? Yes. Zoshalix is saying America is so screwed, literally full of Weimar stuff. Yeah, I can't disagree. I cannot disagree. It really is, looking at the moment, pretty grim over on the other side. And just to go on a little bit of a tangent, I said two things. What's happening in America is really getting me down, but also what's happening with streeting in Labour with the banning of puberty blockers for no reason, something that wasn't recommended in the Cass report. I know I mentioned this yesterday, but it's just, the more I look into it, the more bonkers it is. And what I just want to say is this, and trigger warning, okay? I'm going to talk about people ending themselves. In the 1950s, war hero Alan Turing, who nobody knew was a war hero at the time, was arrested for being gay. He reported a burglary in his house, a young man that he had slept with, and the police didn't arrest the guy for stealing. They arrested Alan Turing because back then, being gay was illegal. It was against the law. And back then, because science wasn't great, they thought that the reason why men were gay was because of an excess of testosterone, I believe. So they put him on a course of estrogen, which caused Alan to grow breasts, which led to a spiral of depression, which ended with him killing himself for the crime of being gay. And now, in 2024, a gay health secretary is making it so that if you are a trans boy, i.e. you were designated female at birth, however you feel like you should be a boy, you should be a man, you will be forced now to grow breasts because you can't get the hormone treatment that you need till later until you're a bit older, and you will be forced to go through puberty against your will. And sounds very similar to what happened to Alan Turing to me. I don't see any difference. And I'll fight anyone who wants to go in the chat and explain to me what the big difference is here. We know that trans children, trans teens have a much higher suicide rate than any other cohort in society. Any other cohort. There is no group of people that you can put together and say, this is a group of people here that has a suicide rate higher than trans teens. Is that disturbing to you? It should be. It's disturbing to me. I wish it was disturbing to Wes Streeting, and I wish that medical decisions were left up to the person, the patient, the doctor, the family. That's who the family they should go to for their decisions. And the idea that puberty blockers are somehow this evil thing that's going to destroy lives, when there's no evidence for that whatsoever. The CAS report did not recommend banning them. If you are already on them, you can complete your course. If they were that dangerous, if it was like the infected blood scandal all over again, they would stop it immediately. They wouldn't say, oh, well, do you know what? We're going to allow you to keep having infected blood for the next, couple of years because you've already started on the process. They will ban it. Obviously. Thalidomide. They banned it. Once they knew what was happening, they banned it and go, oh, well, you started on the course, so you may as well complete it. And yet, that's just the trans kids. If you're a cisgender child, you can still get them. Anyway, Darwin Christian, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Is Project 2025 the modern day Mein Kampf? Yes. Absolutely. It's amazing that JD Vance called the question on the thumbnail of this video was who called Trump the America's Hitler? Well, it was JD Vance, the guy who's now his running mate. He called Trump America's Hitler, which is what he is. Although he's more like Mussolini in his size. Enigma Machine. The trans stuff is scary as heck, says Maggie Pie. I just don't get it. Why score this own goal so early on in the Labour administration? They've just come in on a wave of goodwill. They've put in some amazing policies straight away, straight off the bat. This is like continuing with the Rwanda policy. Why? There's no evidence it'll work. There's no evidence for anything that they're doing with Rwanda. Similarly, there's no evidence that puberty blockers are causing more suicides? Are they? Are they causing major health problems? Because I've got news for you. They're not. There's no evidence that they are. Maybe further research needs to be done. Children have been prescribed puberty blockers now for over 40 years. I think that if there was something really, really awful about them, that would have stopped by now. But I don't know. I don't know why Wes Streeting has decided to single-handedly destroy all of the goodwill that a lot of people had towards Labour as soon as they got in. It's like, how dare he? How dare he do that to us, all of us, not just to trans people, but to all of us. And it's a bit early for calling for resignations, but if this is the way he intends to go on, not being led by the evidence, doing this tweet about, oh, I don't care what anyone else thinks, I'm going to do this anyway because I think it's the right thing to do. Putting your own personal skewed morality in front of what's best for the people of the United Kingdom. Yeah, I'm going to start saying he's got to go. Not happy with it. Not happy with it. Where's getting advised by J.K. Rowling and other transphobes on how to treat trans people, says Sarah. Yeah, because J.K. Rowling's a famous doctor. Project 2025 is Mein Kampf, flashy power grab. It is indeed. Nicholas R.C. Kent, Trump's base is topped out. The Dems are just a larger pool. Voter turnout is the hammer. Nicholas, you're right. I mean, but the thing is, Trump is ahead in all the polls. He has been for a while. The court cases don't seem to have made a dent in that. Biden's performance over the last few weeks in that debate, and then calling President Zelensky, President Putin, and then calling his own vice president, calling her Trump, not looking good. And then the assassination attempt has just solidified Trump's credentials. Don't forget, after an assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan in, I think, 1982, in the 1984 election, he went on to win the biggest landslide one of the biggest landslides, I think, in American political history. You would not believe how many states turned red in the 1984 election. Flumch says, yes, the research into puberty blockers needs to be done. It's sometimes taken decades before the negative effects of safe treatments come to light. Well, I mean, the arguments against puberty blockers sound very similar to the arguments against vaccines to me. And don't get me started on that. It's like, 40 years later, these people will be affected by the fact that they had their puberty delayed. Like, it doesn't stop puberty. It just delays it. And it's perfectly fine to give to cisgender kids who have precocious puberty, but it's not okay to give to trans kids to stop them going into puberty early or not at all until they're ready to undergo hormonal treatments so they can live their life in the sex that they feel comfortable in, or the gender they feel comfortable in. Graham is saying that those people are not going to vote, or that the American people want to vote in Trump, says Jennifer. No, I'm saying that the Trump is ahead in the polls. And Nicholas is right. Turnout is key. And people aren't going to turn out for Biden. That's the issue at the moment. He's not firing them up. The only reason people will turn out to vote is to vote against something. They'll vote against Trump. That's not great, is it? You don't want them to just vote negatively. You want them to vote positively for something better. Jim Bob's complaining about YouTube didn't notify you that the program started. It's 9:30 every weekday morning, and has been for over a year. I mean, come on, set an alarm. Pardon me, hang on. Oh God. Thank you very much to Tinkanator for the chat towards my Lemsip. This is actually Lemsip in my Tory Tears cup. It's not actually Tory Tears. The right wing have a think tank called the LGB Alliance, which says trans people should be outlawed. Their influence is growing. It's scary stuff. Yeah, LGB Alliance also. Thank you very much for the super chat, by the way. Which is, what's the address? Is it 55 Tufton Street, Westminster, London? Oh, you better believe it, because it's 55 Tufton Street, Westminster, London. That's the address of the LGB Alliance, along with Civitas and the Taxpayers Alliance and the Institute of Economic Affairs and other so-called charities that, prey on the prejudices and ill will of and ignorance of people across the country to peddle their own brand of conservative dogma, hatred, abuse, bullying, belittling, ostracizing, just the worst. They're just the worst. And there's very few people in the LGB Alliance who are actually lesbian or gay or bisexual. It's funny that, isn't it? It's just a bunch of white straight cis people telling other people that they're doing it wrong. And I am one thing that I will continue to believe until hopefully the day I die, right, is this. There is one thing in your life that should be absolutely sacrosanct. The one thing that no one should be able to take from you. Fate can take away your family. The bank can take away your house. Your boss can take away your job. Moths can take away your clothes. Everything you own can be taken away from you by someone or something. However, your own body is the one thing that should be eternally yours. Absolutely yours to do with as you please, so long as it doesn't harm anyone or anything else. That's it. That's the rule, okay? And so if you want to get a stupid tattoo saying, England, Euro 2024 winners, fine, get a tattoo. There shouldn't be a law against it. It's not hurting anyone. You're going to look a bit daft for the rest of the time, but that's your decision. If you want to have an abortion, that is your decision. No one else can make that decision for you. It is your body. If you want to take drugs and you're a sane adult, fine. It's your body. I don't agree with drugs myself. I've never taken drugs. I don't want to take drugs. I think they are evil. I think they turn good people bad, and they turn make bad people even worse. Look at the Conservative Party for that instance. And yet, I think it should be they should all be legalized. And, administrated through clinics and things, not just, you can buy anything on any street corner like you can at the moment, unregulated, cut with anything. Great. What a great system that leads to the deaths of thousands of Bolivians and Colombians and Mexicans every year in either the cultivation of these drugs, Afghanistan as well, or the money made from them, which props up the Mexican gun cartels, drugs cartels, sorry. It props up the Taliban in Afghanistan. It props up a lot of really evil regimes. Drugs do, because they're illegal. If they were legal, they wouldn't. Simple as that. Poppies grow. Cocaine grows. Coca leaves grow. You can make it pretty much anywhere. Marijuana, you can grow marijuana in this country. There's nothing to stop you. And then you can get it to people, through a dispensary somewhere where you have to get registered and said, yes, I'm quite happy to know what all the side effects are and still do this thing anyway and make an informed decision instead of an uninformed decision. And so when it comes to things like if people feel that they are born in the wrong body, it should be the state's obligation to do everything in their power to make sure that that person feels valued and feels given attention, and given the support that they need to get through this, to come out on the other side a happier, healthier human being. And I'm all for that, because the one thing that I think that is yours, it's not just like should be, but it is yours, is your body. And you should be free to do with that whatever you want, from, like I say, smoking a joint to donating a kidney. It's your body. It's your body. Well said, Graham, says Alan Jackson. Thank you very much. I hope that was for what I just said rather than something I said earlier. LGB Alliance has ties with the Heritage Foundation too. That's from Socialist. I hope I'm saying this right, Socialix. Yes, Heritage Foundation, which is the I want to say company, but it's a think tank. The think tank behind Project 2025. And yeah, the cruel demonization of the trans community in the last few years is something that is a stain on the conscience of all who believe that people should be afforded the dignity of being able to live a life that feels authentic for them, as long as they're not hurting anyone else. Who do trans people hurt? Last week, a murderer murdered 3 women in their own home. A cisgender man. How many women were murdered by trans women in public toilets? None. How many were assaulted? None. How many women were assaulted after England lost their match on Sunday night? Thousands. Incidents of domestic violence go through the roof every time England plays, whether they win or lose. Yeah, for what you just said. Thanks very much, Alan, for that. Anyway, so yeah, going back to briefly. Oh my God, we're not out of time. I don't know. I know how to wrap it, don't I? Yeah, so going back to what I was just saying about this JD man. One of the funny things I should mention is that Trump couldn't remember his name. He called him JP, and then he made up some surname. I wish I'd written it down before I came on the show this morning. It was quite funny. I guess we just had to be there. I'm going to quickly do a paper review, and then we're going to get going. Listen, I know some people go, we should ignore the papers, and I agree. I wish the papers didn't exist. I don't know why the BBC give attention to the papers, because it's just advertising rivals, but the BBC wants to be independent, so it does. But I think that it's worth having a look at what the 4 billionaires who run our press are telling people. are telling the older generation. Because to me, looking at these headlines, it's like pre-warned is pre-armed. Is that the expression? Pre-armed is pre-warned? I don't know. But it's like, if you're given a warning in advance of what's going on, you're more likely to do what's necessary in order to combat it when it's presented to you in real life by someone who's just parroting one of these headlines. So that's why I do it. But if you want me to stop doing it, please let me know. I will. I'm very happy to do that. The super chat animation came up then. That's exciting. Okay, so we've got Trump's pick for VP is Hillbilly Senator. He wrote a book called Hillbilly Elegy or something about his youth. And then ominous Saint Swithin's Day for King. I don't really understand that, but I didn't look into it. We've got inside Alison Pearson. I think she's on the private school mafia list. The Euros proved we still love our country. Okay. And then this space is precious to us. The Greenbelt plans spooking a market town. So obviously fear-mongering there in the Daily Telegraph. This is on the margin. Uncivil servants. Comedian Emma Sadie on playing Sue Gray. Okay, whatever. And then the return of Some Mothers Do Have 'Em. Jesus. Really? Michael Crawford, is it? Okay. Jay, this is about this teenager who died while on holiday. His body's been found. And then the same picture of the king looking bizarre. It's just a bit of a weird picture. He looks a bit like Curb Your Enthusiasm. Doesn't he look like? Does he look like Curb Your Enthusiasm? Does he? Is it just me? Does he? Trump races ahead in key states after shooting, something I mentioned earlier. Yeah, he is way ahead in the polls in the key states, in the 6 states that need to be won in order to win the presidency. Times poll boost as Republicans anoint nominee. Unbelievable that a guy who instigated a riot, an insurrection, a mob who went into the Capitol, injured over 150 police officers, killed 5 people, well, led to the deaths of 5 people, and he's now running for president and he's probably going to win. An adjudicated rapist, a convicted felon, looks like he's going to win. There's so many points with Trump where you think that should be the end of it. Maybe when he suggested injecting bleach, when he had his secret meeting with Putin without his advisors there, just, one-on-one with Putin, old poo-poo, his best buddy. But that should have been the end of it. Maybe when he made fun of the disabled journalist, that should have been the end of it back in 2016 or all those years ago. There you go. Looks like the Daily Telegraph's going with Jay. Now doctors told to lecture us on climate change, and Nadine Dorries sticking up for child murderer Lucy Letby. Okay. The Royal College of Physicians guide tells medics to look out for eco-distress and promotes remote appointments to cut emissions. Yeah, good. I suffer from eco-distress because I can see the weather changing. The weather, I know that's not the climate, but the climate affects the weather. And, I'm not a scientist, but I can understand data. My partner is actually a data scientist, and the signs are not looking good. And that makes me anxious. Then, good, because that makes me human, because we should be anxious. And they go, oh no, it's just fear-mongering. Yeah, that's a bit rich coming from the Tories, isn't it? It's fear-mongering, it is. It's fear-mongering. This is all that the Mail do. Remember our Remaining universities? Fear-mongering. Do you remember Enemies of the People? Fear-mongering. Do you remember Crush the Saboteurs? Fear-mongering. Yeah, that's what this is what they do. They fear-monger about bullshit, culture war bullshit. And they say, oh no, we shouldn't be worried about climate change because we don't want to interfere in the massive profits made by oil companies. Trump hits out a witch hunt despite pledge to unite nation. What? And then UK faces defence threat from deadly quartet. That's in The Guardian there, which I assume is China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. And then there's there's a story about Ken Dodd. Okay. And Starmer and Trump start building their new special relationship. Personal call was new prime minister's idea. The eye understands following assassination attempt. So there you go. Starmer called up the president to see if he was all right. The former president, sorry. Which is a statesman-like thing to do, rather a statesperson thing to do. But I think we might be waving a piece of paper saying peace in our time before too long. We all know how that ended. Body found in hunt for missing Jay, and then Trump handed legal victory as judge dismisses classified documents case in the Financial Times, and that was about Justice Eileen Cannon, who has decided that no, Trump doesn't need to face criminal proceedings for literally stealing classified documents and hiding them in his toilet. Meanwhile, Chelsea Manning the guy, WikiLeaks guy, spent many years in jail. Names escape me. Someone will tell me in a moment. Paradox of tolerance, says Zocialix. Yeah, you're right. Assange, Julian Assange. That's it. Sorry. So Chelsea Manning and Julian Assange both spent many years in jail or incarcerated or trapped in the Ecuadorian embassy for what? What did they do? They stole classified documents. See, that used to be a crime. Not anymore. Judge Eileen Luce Cannon, I thought they decided she was too biased. And Alan Jackson says, Assange. Yes, thank you. I got it before that came up. But for some reason, like when you watch a quiz show and then the answer's just there on the edge of your head and you just... It's a bit like that. So far, Jeremy Miles, Mick, Anthony, James all resigned, and two others announced intentions to resign. I'm not sure who you're referring to there. And then Trump, Don Do That says Trump will get confused. Pence Valance will be Pence pants. And how is a Trump appointee ruling on an open and shut case against him fair? It's not fair. Oh, forget about fairness. I think the one thing that's going to piss me off the most over the next few months, I mean, obviously things will get worse when he's actually in power, but the thing that's going to piss me off in the next few months is just going to be having to see Trump's fucking face on the telly, on the internet, on my phone every fucking day. I hate his face. One of the great things about Boris Johnson no longer being Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is that I no longer have to see his face on a daily basis. Maybe once every few months, a new story might crop up and it might appear like this little horrible little golem, fat golem in the corner going, well beating. Fine, I can about cope with that. But every time I have opened up the BBC webpage recently, since, I know we had a bit of a blip during the election because the news actually concentrates on British politics for a change. But with his case in America, his cases, his court cases, and now the assassination attempt, and now the RNC Convention. It's... we're going to have to see his face a lot. And I hate Trump's face. I hate everything about him. And I very much wish that things had turned out differently, if you know what I mean. I can't say what I think because I'll get demonetized and possibly thrown off this platform. But I think we're all thinking it. We are all thinking it, aren't we? We are. Bit late for the party. That's all right. Better late than never. But hello, Graham. Before Labour was elected, I kept holding out hope that he wouldn't do this, despite Starmer's comments. We're talking about West Streeting. Tinkinator, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Starmer, like all prime ministers, licks the shoes of the US president it's become increasingly clear that we are not relevant on the world stage, just America's European super aircraft carrier, a vassal. I don't agree with that, Tinkanator. I think that Britain has an outsized influence on the world stage that we have shrunk away from in recent years because of the Tories, because of Brexit, because of the nativism and isolationism that's come of that. But having travelled a lot, I've seen a lot of British influence all around the world, and we were respected. You know, we obviously jokes about us being America's poodle have gone on for years. I mean, even before the Iraq War, we were sometimes called that, but we didn't go into Vietnam. We told the president, Lyndon Johnson at the time, to piss off. We're not getting involved. It's not our fight. We could do that in the past, but then we stopped doing it for some reason because we had idiots in charge. Well, maybe not idiots, idealistic morons. No, I don't want to call the last Labour administration morons, but the fact that they went along with the Americans into an unwinnable war in the Middle East was just, yeah. I mean, with Afghanistan, you could kind of go, well, if we ignore all of history and the fact that there's been 3 Anglo-Afghan wars, yeah, if we ignore them, and we lost all of them, if we ignore them, then, you know, we should be fine. We should be all right. But yeah, even without that caveat, I guess that the Taliban were an awful regime and they were harboring terrorists. So there was some kind of excuse, even though the 9/11 hijackers, none of them were from Afghanistan, mostly from Saudi Arabia. We can't attack Saudi Arabia. That's where we got all our oil from. Oh, what's going to become of Saudi Arabia once the oil runs out? Yeah. But yeah, the Iraq War, no justification at all. In fact, a younger QC at the time, who's a QC? He wrote an article in the Guardian saying that the war wasn't legal back in 2003. And do you know what that young man's name was? It was Keir Starmer. Yeah, true. Labour's also cut aid to Gaza by 85%. Shit. I didn't know that. I'm going to have to look that up. But if that's true, that's really shit. Suze, ciao, and thanks for a very uplifting, sane half hour for me. You're fast becoming indispensable. Bless you. Oh, thank you, Sue. I don't feel like I'm being particularly uplifting, though. I mean, I feel like I'm quite under the weather at the moment in like several different ways. But thank you. Thanks for that. And thanks to everyone in the chat. Honestly, you keep me sane. You honestly keep me sane, and knowing that there's other people out there who feel the same way about this stuff. Even more scary is the VP he picked. That's from Alistair. Yes, you're right. This is a guy who wants abortion to be illegal, even in cases of rape and incest. So, half the population of America are women. How any women can vote for this is beyond me, but people do. People don't always vote in their own best interests. What can I say? Anyway, I'll be back tonight at 7:30 for another edition of Geoscope with Ollie Bowler Hatman. So please join me for that. We'll be discussing news from around the world. We'll try not to dwell on America too much, but we probably will a little bit. But if you want to join us for that, that'd be great. I'll be back in the morning again at 9:30 for another morning brew. And then Phil will be here on Thursday. So Phil will be back on Thursday. And obviously on Friday, we'll be doing our agenda and giving a roundup of the week of British politics. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Should be doing an episode of The Intersection this week as well, talking about transgender teens and puberty blockers. So please join us for that on Wednesday. But otherwise, you take care. Thanks for watching. Give us a like on the way out. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.